Good evening. I'm Shauna, Assistant Director of Alumni Relations and Annual Giving at UW-Tacoma. It's my pleasure to welcome you. Thank you for joining us for our virtual alumni speaker series. We ask that you remain muted during the interview portion, and after the interview, if there is time, we'll go ahead and take questions via the chat, or our facilitator will definitely let you know if you can come off of mute. If you experience any technical difficulties, please note it in the chat and then we will assist. To get us started, I'll go ahead and share the land acknowledgement. We recognize that all of us at UW-Tacoma learn, live, and work on or near the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people. In particular, we are situated on the traditional territory of the Puyallup. As people on this occupied territory, we do have a responsibility to acknowledge the land, the ancestors who have cared for this land since time immemorial, and all our indigenous connections today. We also have the responsibility to acknowledge the histories of dispossession and forced removal that have allowed for the growth and survival of this institution. In light of this history, let us take active efforts to partner with our indigenous community members and neighbors as we continue our work together as a community of learners, leaders, and educators. With that, I will go ahead and turn this over to our interviewer, Bengisu Chichek, our student from Law and Policy, and she will be introducing our alumni speaker.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Our alumni speaker is Mohamed Rashed. So Mohamed Rashed is a vice president, branch manager of Banner Bank with a history of working in the financial services industry. He grew up in Egypt and moved to the US in 2006. He attended UW-Tacoma in 2007 and graduated in 2011, earning his dual degree in international business and politics. During his time at UW-Tacoma, he was the president of the Muslim Student Association, MSA, and he went on to attain a dual master's degree in business and public administration at Eastern Washington University in Spokane. Currently, he is working on a Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, focused in leadership studies at Gonzaga University, and plans to graduate by 2024. He enjoys working out and going to the gym, which is his getaway to relieve stress. He also enjoys the outdoors and nature. Summer is his favorite season because it allows him to go up to Green Bluff in Spokane, visit farms, and have fun with fruit picking. Now let's get started with our questions for the interview. So Mohamed, can you tell us a little bit about the company that you work for, such as what you do in your current role at the Banner Bank, and how and why did you decide to get involved with the banking industry?
Good evening, everyone. And first, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining today. Thank you to Shauna and Bingsu for having me. Just a quick small disclosure, anything I share here is purely based on my thoughts and experience, my own thoughts and experience, and it does not represent any specific group or organization. So the bank I work for, it's a commercial bank. It has locations and operates in 4 different states, Washington, Oregon, California, and Idaho. My job, it entails 3 different parts. The first is basically customer service, delivery, and operations. And what that entails is taking care of customers coming to the bank, their banking needs, making sure the product and services that they're looking for to help them succeed financially. We're providing that. And the second part is team member development. And that part is actually the most fun to me because I get to work with individuals to help coach and train them, whether to get them up to speed in their current role, if the banking job is their first bank job, or if they are, getting ready to move into the next step and get promoted. I work with tellers and bankers, banking professionals, and sometimes an assistant manager, and also help them with their skill set in terms of sales and customer service delivery. And the third part to my job is business development, and also another fun part where I get to go out in the community, meet with business owners and talk to them about learn about their banking needs, learn about their business, and go about helping them to grow their business and see if there is anything that the bank can do to help them succeed with their business. The how and why I got involved in banking, I ask myself this question every single day. But to tell you the truth, the first banking job, I got that when I was going to UW, and that was a part-time job. And a national bank actually, there was a job fair at UW, and a national bank send some people to recruit students fresh off college. And I think the specific jobs they were looking for, it was a branch manager trainee. And to me, that was like, you know, a dream coming true. You know, you're finishing off college and you're landing a management job. I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I landed the interview. However, I didn't get the job. I got told by the recruiter at that time that I ended up sharing in the interview. I wanted to become a business analyst, and I didn't really know what I was wanting to do, as I was studying international business and politics at that time. So later on, he shared that they were looking specifically for people in retail, and that's the kind of career path. So time goes by, and then I go into an interview for a teller position for another national bank, and the person I'm interviewing with was questioning me, why are you interested in the bank? And for some reason, I mentioned the job fair that I had at UW-Tacoma and me meeting this individual. But then that hiring manager ended up knowing that individual that was the recruiter, which struck interesting conversation, but I ended up working for him, and that's how I ended up with my first job. But honestly, when I was going to school, I wasn't intending to be in banking. Banking career is kind of like the career that kind of sucks you in. Once you go into it, it's really hard to go out. When I was studying international business, my dream was to work for an international company, you know, travel the world and have fun and do this and do that. But here I am, and I love it.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. That's very interesting. So our second question is, when you decided on universities, why did you choose UW-Tacoma?
So I was living in Tacoma at that time, and I recently had just moved from Egypt. I was transferring 3 years in economics from Egypt. So I kind of knew that I was gonna get into a business degree. I also knew that I wanted to study at a public school and a well-known university. At that time, to be honest with you, whether it was Tacoma or Seattle, I just wanted to study at UW, and I got accepted at UW-Tacoma, first at the Melgert School of Business to start my international business degree. And I really enjoyed the convenience of being able to go to UW from Tacoma and kind of not having to travel to Seattle.
Well, you made a great choice with UW too. So I feel like you already answered a little bit of this next question, but I'll still ask it if you want to add on to anything. And that is, can you tell us about your history and career path in financial services and how it landed you where you are now?
Sure. I started as a flex teller. When I was offered that first job, I sat down with the assistant manager, and basically she almost I almost felt like she was talking me out of this position. She was saying, you know, you don't get any benefits, you know, this is like a 17 hours kind of job, and we can give you a few hours, we can schedule you for the 17. It really depends on our schedule. To make it long story short, I ended up taking the position, and it was shortly after that which it was funny because I did mention to her in that at that time, I was like, you were telling me about how not so significant the position is, but you are also going to be the person in a very short period of time talking to me to get a full-time job because I'll show you what I can do. And just having this attitude of doing really well and learning and growing, I moved from being a flex teller to a full-time teller position, which gave me a great opportunity to learn a lot about banking, and it really solidified banking as a career for me. And once I graduated from UW, I started looking into becoming a banker position, and I got promoted to a personal banker position, and that was in Tacoma. And I did really well being a personal banker. And during that time, it was essential to have success with production and helping customers succeed financially. And the bank I worked for saw how hard I worked. I was recognized 3 years in a row for being a top performer banker regionally, which had granted me an assistant manager position in the meanwhile. And that was the time when I was working on my master's. And then after I graduated with my master's, I felt that I was ready to take on my first leadership role, which I actually had to move into a small town. It was a fascinating experience, right in the middle of nowhere, 8,000 people. I did that for about a year, and it was really interesting because managers, senior managers, they can look and see how people are doing from different branches. So I think I did decent in my first role as a branch manager, which helped me to come back to Spokane, and then I did that for a couple of more years, and then I moved to Banner Bank as of the end of 2017.
Wow, these sound like a lot of amazing accomplishments. So the next question is, usually when people enter a bank, the pictures of leadership on the wall don't look like you. What has been your experiences with diversity in the banking industry and leadership? How do you, or how have you made an impact with diversity in the work that you do or have done?
So Sean and I kind of spoke about this and UWTacoma, but basically diversity is widely talked about in the field of banking. But we all know that talking is great. However, action is much greater. So I feel like there's a lot of talk about it and a lot of dancing. So I'll share this little story and kind of tie it in, tie it with my perspective when it comes to diversity in banking. And this story goes back. I was working for this organization, a financial institution, and we were sitting on a leadership table. It was all branch managers and some regional managers. And they, the corporate office sent someone from HR to basically strike this conversation about diversity and kind of solicit some feedback from branch managers and so on and so forth. And that individual asked, what is diversity, and how is diversity implemented while you are leading your branches? And what fascinated me at that time was when I gave my answer. Basically, I looked around me and I was like, well, I got to speak up because I'm the only diversity in this table, so I better contribute to this. So I think diversity is incorporating multiple and different perspectives and backgrounds at the workplace. That would be the most simple way of describing it. And then I was very taken back by her reaction or body language, because I felt like that was not really hitting the right chord for her. That was not what she was looking to find out. but she turns on and she completely ignores what I had shared. And she was like, okay, anybody else wants to kind of share? Nobody spoke up, but then she goes, the idea of diversity is really tailoring your branch to match the needs of your market. And in my personal opinion, while I think that's great, but I feel like this is a result. I feel like this is a result of diversity. That's not the ultimate goal of implementing diversity. And basically, it's just, in my opinion, you bring those multiple perspectives, different perspectives, because you care about diversity, you care about individuals that can contribute to the workplace. They do amazing things. And then as a result, you help customers in the best way that's possible. So to give you an example, in a heavy populated area with, for example, Hispanic clients, it's nice to have Hispanic individual in the bank so that when people walk in, they feel welcome, they kind of connect with someone. But I'm not gonna have like, 100% of my teller line and my personal banker people from Hispanic background. And then you can apply that example with white. And how often do you find white as being the predominant population in the area? So my perspective was that you bring multiple perspectives. You do kind of pay attention to the market, and you have some Hispanic people. You gotta have a Hispanic individual. And so on and so forth. But let me share with you this success I had with diversity and kind of shed a little bit of light of what I did personally. So at one given time in my career, I had led a very successful team and that I put together. And what was fascinating about this team, that I had a team member almost from every continent. In terms of color, I had white, brown, and black. In terms of languages, I had English, Arabic, Spanish, Russian, and multiple African languages. I had a couple of individuals from LGBTQ, and it was super amazing time for me. We had the highest customer service scores in our district, so the organization figured out a way to reach out to clients and kind of tell you how well you do. Because our customers said we did an amazing job. We had the highest team member engagement score in the region, which is basically reaching out team members in your team, saying that they love their jobs. And then we also had the highest compliance score in the region. So our auditors were telling us that my team did a phenomenal job following policies and procedures. So the bottom line is, I believe that as a leader, we can start with self and go from there. No matter what kind of industry you are in, what kind of agenda your HR people have, and how much talk at the senior level takes place about diversity, doesn't matter. Start with yourself and hope that at some point you will make an impact.
Thank you so much for sharing that, especially in a place where there's such a lack of diversity. I'm happy that you're able to use that experience and put it in a positive way. So the next question is, what was your most significant learning experience you had as a UW-Tacoma student?
So you have to realize it's been about, 13 years ago when I was going to UW. So my overall learning experience was very positive. If there is one learning experience that stands out to me and that kind of helped me a lot when I was a student, that one was making sure to take advantage of both the writing and tutoring centers. Being an ESL learner, it was a little bit challenging for me at that time, coming from Egypt and jump-starting my education here in the US. So having resources like that at the university level has helped a lot. In terms of my overall experience, I feel like the majority of my business degree classes, they contributed a lot when it comes to my analytical skills, my presentation skills, and my business acumen. My politics degree classes, they were great. I feel like some critical thinking skills came from that. If I want to point out one course, I remember this class. It was a leadership course that I took, and I think the name of the professor, Kent Nelson. I don't know if he's still around or not in the business school. He was a great professor. The class was fascinating. I was studying international business. I wasn't focused on leadership, but I took a leadership class. I can't remember if it was required or an elective course. But periodically I would meet with my mentor, Dr. Turan Kayoglu. He's a professor at UWT. And he always asked me questions like, how are classes? Well, what are you learning? Anything you need from me? And as a mentor, he would touch base with me. And I remember telling him, oh man, I'm taking this wonderful class in leadership. And I don't know what it is, but I'm really enjoying it. He said, with a very mischievous smile, he goes, maybe that's what you should be studying. And it's really interesting because you fast forward 10 years later, and now I'm doing my PhD in leadership. So just kind of fascinating to go back and reflect on my experience as a student and remember something like that.
That's so great to hear. And I think you already answered the next question, which was, who were the professors, mentors, or people in your life that added to your experience? So feel free if you want to add more, or we can just go on to the next question.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love an opportunity to kind of reflect on this. I met Dr. Turan when it was a very challenging time for me. There was an imbalance in my personal life, getting adapted to living in the States, having challenges with school, and just the time that I had totally lost all the confidence that I had for myself. And believe it or not, I had zero confidence at that time. Just like in general, when you're looking for a mentor, number one, you need someone that's vested in your success, vested in you and in your success. Number two, you need someone that knows what your comfort level is and does a couple of things. One, challenges you and get you out of your comfort zone, but then at the right time comes down to your level and make you feel like a freaking hero. And then the third, you need someone that you as a mentee, you can look at and look in their eyes somehow, and you just become inspired and motivated like there is no tomorrow. And to be honest with you, Dr. Turan did all of that for me. He had an open door policy. His charisma, his belief in me really helped shaping who I am today. And just let me finish with this. For those who are attending this Zoom meeting and are leaders of some capacity, we all need mentors to be available and accept us as mentees. And I really feel like being kind and being genuine and being authentic is key. And I really wanted to take this opportunity and say thank you to Dr. Turan for being that one for me.
That's so great to hear, and I agree. Every student should have that nice mentor who sincerely pushes and inspires that student to do better on campus. So the next question is, if you could go back in time and do it all over, what would you do differently? Is there a class that you wish you would have taken or paid more attention in? Or are there student groups or activities you wish you had engaged in?
I kind of touched base a little bit on that. I really enjoyed my experience. I wouldn't want to change anything about it, but if I know the future and I know that my PhD will be focused on leadership, I would say maybe I would go back and maybe replace my international business degree with a leadership degree. A couple of things I would do a little bit different. I would visit the writing center more often. With being in a PhD program right now, I see how critical it is to be really good at writing. And just connect more with student groups. I had an opportunity to lead a student group when I was in school, but honestly, I didn't submerge myself well enough when I was going to UWT. I just wanted to get classes over with and go home. I wanted to get my degree and get going. I looked at it as a transaction. And I did not look at it as a journey. So if I would go back, those are some of the changes I would do. Just immerse myself and look at it as a journey.
Thank you for that. And maybe you answered a little bit of this next question too, but again, I'll just say it. How did your experience at UW-Tacoma influence your career pursuits after graduation?
When I graduated, when I graduated from UW, it was that time when I decided that the banking is going to be my career, and that's the time when I became a banker. I got promoted from a teller to become a banker. I think having the degree may have helped a little. I'm not sure if that was 100% the reason I got promoted or I went into the banker role, but it could have helped. But when I go on interviews and I see and I hear people looking at, talking to me and looking at my resume and seeing UW being one of the school that I've gone to, I get a vibe from them that they value that I got my education from UW. You get that vibe that, oh, you graduated from UW, you must be smart, even though I'm not that smart at all. I work a little bit hard, but I don't consider myself a smart person. But when you come across people, really UW has a very good reputation about students. You graduate from UW, you're a smart dude. So I don't know, maybe it just helped me get in front of people when I grew my banking career.
That's so great. The next question is, what surprised you most about your area of work in financial services and/or banking?
I feel like there isn't a lot of emphasis on education in the banking world. And again, I came from Egypt, where you cannot work for a bank unless you have a 4-year degree, unless you have a bachelor degree. I feel like there isn't a lot of emphasis. And if there isn't, you start questioning yourself, was it worth it that you would go and get a master's degree? Is it worth it to finish to get a PhD? I just feel like maybe at some level that I haven't reached yet, maybe at the retail level, the banker / branch management isn't as needed. But I have done my postgraduate and I'm working on my doctorate, and honestly, leadership skills and education knowledge, it can get rusty. And if you're not using it and you're not utilizing it, and the work that you do isn't utilizing it or isn't motivating you to use it, it kind of becomes pointless. But that's one area that surprised me about banking, just kind of less emphasis on education.
Oh, that's interesting to know. So the next question is, what would you say to students who are nervous about not working specifically in their field of study?
I think, in my opinion, that the nervousness could be resulted from the lack of passion. If you haven't really tried something, you don't know if you like it or not, or you're gonna succeed at it or not. So I just feel like the biggest advice to those individuals is to be curious. Just your curiosity will lead you to your passion, I think. But also, in my opinion, there is a positive curiosity and there is a negative curiosity. So, for example, jumping off the Tacoma Narrows Bridge to find out how cold the water is, that can be like a very negative curiosity. But really, and the reason I point that out, just be realistic. Like, don't keep on like wasting time and trying a lot of things and not making a decision. At some point, just kind of make a decision, but be realistic about how long and how many things you would try before you decide, because you're gonna marry it. You're gonna stick with your career forever, and just be curious.
That's an interesting way to put it. So the next question is, what has the experience been like to return to school as a doctoral student during the pandemic?
Not the greatest. If I'm gonna be honest, I dislike online education. It's just not for me. For other students, it's fantastic. They work with your schedule. You have remote students. The doctoral program attracts a lot of people from different part of not only the US, but the whole world. So I think it works great for them to be able to see more courses being offered online. But a lot of courses have been offered online and I just don't like it. I even talked to my advisor about that. But I'm grateful because I can still finish my degree. And I'm also more grateful because before the pandemic, I had already finished almost halfway of the required courses, which are the kind of the foundations for the PhD program. The next half is more like online. It's more like individual studies and working on dissertation. So I'm grateful that the second half of my degree is independent studies by nature. So I can just say that I haven't been impacted that much, but I can see that there has been a lot of impact on the courses being offered online. And you don't get the experience of being in class and meeting individual in person and connecting with individual, because it really adds a different level of experience for you.
Well, I hope your experience as a doctorate student gets better. The next question is, how has getting your education impacted you and your family?
For sure, less time spent, but with time management, it's doable. If there are people in this Zoom meeting or people that will listen to this Zoom meeting and are considering PhD, please do it before you start a family. Do yourself a favor. And I'll just leave it at that.
All right, so the next question is, what are you doing and what did you do to protect your mental health during the COVID-19 impacts?
So part of what I do day to day can become very stressful. With COVID-19, it became a lot stressful, but my getaway, as you mentioned in the introduction, is to work out. But then when COVID hit, gyms were closed. So I ended up buying a treadmill. I hate running. I absolutely hate running, or I used to hate running. But it helped me a little bit to get through this time. Another thing, my anxiety kicked in because it was a challenging time to be at work, to be working on my school and with the family and all that. And I was very active on being on the internet, getting a lot of information, and I'm reading a lot of the news. But one thing I did, I actually turned off my news feeds, and that was a great decision, because it was an uncertainty time. People didn't know what was going on, and there was a lot of the things that was put on the news that could create a huge stress for people, and it was impacting me tremendously at that time. I remember, but I turned off the news feed in my iPhone. I no longer read the news. It was funny, the other day someone I was having lunch with a friend, and he goes, "So I wanted to ask you, what is your thought about this Afghanistan thing?" And then I go, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And basically I wasn't following the news at all, and everybody was talking about the recent news and things like that. But I just kept myself disconnected from the news and just stayed focused on what matters the most, which is basically just yourself, your family, your education.
That's very good advice, especially not indulging ourselves so much in the news. That's something that we should definitely take. So our last question is, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to current students?
One advice to give to students. The number one advice that sticks to me, and the reason it sticks to me because I didn't do it, or I did not do it as much as I wish I could have done it more. And that's raising your hand. Just raise your hand. At every opportunity that you don't know something or not sure, raise your hand. In the classroom, it's your chance to walk away learning something that's meaningful. Don't waste that time. The chances are there are other in the classroom, other students who are skeptical to raise their hand. So be their hero and raise your hand, and you'll find yourself that you're gonna learn more. Your instructors are gonna appreciate it because sometimes they expect a certain level, and UW, my experience in UW, that the instructors, they expect a lot out of the students. I studied at a university level in the US. Now I studied at three different universities. And to tell you the truth, by far UW has been the most challenging. I don't know if it was because at that time I wasn't as polished, or I was I was new in the US. My English skills wasn't at its best, but the expectation of the instructors that the people that are sitting in the class, they're smart people. They were granted admission because of a reason. Because they worked hard, they got a high GPA, and they are in this class for a reason. And of course, once in a while, you're gonna find someone like myself who maybe have a lot of questions, or maybe their level of understanding could need a little bit of massaging. It needs more attention, and maybe there will be more than just one individual. A few individuals sitting in the class, and everybody is saying nodding and pretending like they know exactly everything that's being said in the classroom. And all of a sudden you find out that the 1 hour passed, but then you didn't ask enough questions, but then you missed out on great learning opportunities at that time. And I did that a lot. In my undergrad, I had a couple of hoodies. I would put on my hoodie. I would find a corner in the classroom. I would sit, and I wouldn't want to be bothered. I just wanted to get into the class and be out of the class and just go on my day. But my biggest thing is to just be curious and ask a lot of questions, and enjoy the journey.
Well, that's definitely a piece of advice I'm going to take as a current student. Thank you so much, Mohamed. That was the end of the interview questions. We will now have questions and answers. So please put your questions either in the chat or come off of mute to ask your questions.
I was looking for the hand, but I can't find it. So can I? Okay. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you, Linda?
I'm good. So good. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're planning for your dissertation? What's your topic, your area?
Yes, that's a great question. I've done a lot of research on transformational leadership, and I'll tell you exactly why I picked transformational leadership. Through my throughout my work, or the industry I'm in, it's heavily transactional. In terms of what kind of leadership that's being implemented, or you just kind of inherit it from other leaders that either have led you, or from training and so on and so forth. And the biggest nightmare I have, being a banker / a manager in the retail banking, is employee retention. I'm just struggling with it. And my idea was to figure out a better leadership style that can fit within the banking industry and specifically retail that could help this problem of employee retention. And throughout all my research and studying and the first couple of years in the doctoral program, I learned so much about transformational leadership and how it really overlap with transactional. So you can still be transactional and kind of deliver results and be straightforward in your communication, but also implement that transformational leadership and what it entails, and have a better work environment, have a better dynamic, and maybe eventually people will love work more. So my goal, the question that I wanted to explore is how would transformation leadership make an impact in retail banking, in employee retention in retail banking? And I'm hoping once I finish with my dissertation and I graduate, I'm hoping that I would convert my dissertation into, I don't know, maybe a book that could be like I don't know, banking for dummies or something like that. But yeah, thank you so much for asking that question.
All right, so we have two questions. So one's in the chat and then John raised his hand. So Marty asked in the chat, how did you or do you manage competing life priorities, for example, school, work, and personal?
So the way I live, I measure every step I take. That's like, I don't know if this is a good or bad thing about my personality. Like I overthink everything in my life, and that actually helped me to become or more organized and have structure. So if you ask me about work specifically, I could tell you exactly what my days look like. I could tell you what TWT Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are going to be, what my Mondays and Fridays are going to be. And with school, work, and personal, Monday through Friday, I do nothing, absolutely nothing but work. And the only thing that can be done is basically working out, hanging out in the evening with family, watching TV, and so on and so forth. But the only time I could really do anything outside the Mondays through Friday schedule, having this banker schedule, is to utilize the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. That's the time when I go to school and try to kind of block a few hours where I could sit down and do my research and do my homework and my reading. And there is no way I can get this done at home with kids jumping over my shoulders and stuff like that. And then just I try to make it fair. If I picked a Saturday where I had to do that, maybe keep the Sunday for the family. We would go to the park or Chuck E. Cheese or something like that. It's been challenging. I am going part-time to school, so I'm taking one class at a time, and that had helped a lot. The semester I take 2 classes. It's nasty. It's rough. I am even my communication at home is horrible, and people become getting really irritated with me. But just doing one class, and it has been very doable. And my advisor in the doctoral program, they have been very understanding for that. But they said at some point when I get closer to graduating, I'll have to double up on classes. Great question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. John, please go ahead with your question.
Hello, my friend. Mohamed, good to see you. Yes.
Good. How are you, boss?
Fantastic. Good, man. Fantastic conversation. Really, really well done. First off, I want to say I applaud you because you are a person who seeks knowledge. And so being able to cut news feeds because it was better just for your overall mental state and capacity, completely agree with that. I loved hearing that. My question is, because it is something that is a struggle. I love the question about diversity earlier, and I loved your answer about diversity. So the question is, how do you balance being oftentimes, especially in banking, the only person that's diverse in the room, with also being the person that may be called to lead the charge for diversity within the organization?
Hi, John. That's a great question. Thanks, man. For those who don't know, John, he was one of my mentors in the banking world. I've worked under his leadership, and he was a great leader that I've learned tremendous things from him. Being the only diversity in the room is challenging, and it really puts a lot of pressure on you, because when you walk away, you feel like you have more responsibility than the non-diversified group or the diversified individual. You feel like you want to be more authentic, and you want to go out there and make an impact. And anything you do, it's really looked at as everybody's watching it, and every step that you take, it has to be, you have to take it with precaution, and you cannot be a person of diversity and talk about diversity and want to achieve diversity without going out there and actually implementing it and being very genuine about it. But then you come across the system challenges, and you're, as I mentioned in my answer, I feel like making changes from yourself. As a leader, you start with yourself, and then eventually when people around you see your success that you're having by appreciating diversity, they can be like, aha, okay, we need to put this individual in charge, and we need to listen to them more. Great question, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any more questions? Please feel free to unmute or put it in the chat box.
Yes, Mohamed, I just have a question. I'm curious, can you comment on the similarities and or differences coming from the University of Washington, which is a public school, and then going into Gonzaga, which is a private Catholic university? How do you find the two cultures?
It's a lot different. UW-Tacoma is very, so even though UW-Tacoma, specifically the Tacoma campus, even though it's a public school, but the campus itself gives you the private feeling. So in terms of having a small size class, being able to approach instructors on a personal level, I feel it's very similar to that aspect. A big difference, of course, the conversation around faith is widely talked about in classroom very openly, and you made a decision to study at a religious institution, and it's fascinating because you come across a lot of individuals that come from that background, from the faith background. Actually, I have a few doctoral students who are pastors and so on and so forth. So it's interesting to kind of learn about their perspective, but not a whole lot of difference in terms of your experience walking on campus, being able to approach instructors, finding where things are. The biggest difference, I would say, their assessment is more qualitative, and what I mean by that is you show up to class, you do what you can, and professors, they can see that, and through conversation with professors, they totally understand ups and downs that come in people's lives. I feel like this is more implemented at Gonzaga. At UW-Tacoma, the assessment was more quantitative, and what I mean by that, it's more like black or white. You get, like in my business degree, when I was going to UW, every course I have taken, all the classes, the exams and the tests were basically a multiple choice kind kind of deal. So whether you knew the answer or you didn't, you're done. But over there, it's more like through, you know, and maybe because of the difference in the degree too, that could be a reason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, Mohamed. This has been very, very interesting and very, I really enjoyed listening to your experiences. And Bengisu, thank you for hosting. I just want to, you mentioned that you got help from the Writing Center at UW-Tacoma, and I've been working as a writing tutor for the last almost 10 years for Renton Technical College, and I appreciate your remarks about the writing, the help you got with the writing. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice meeting you, David.
Thank you. I'd love to meet you in person sometime.
Absolutely. I always want to come down there and specifically to meet with Dr. Turan, because I haven't seen him for a very long time. But when I stop by and grab coffee with Dr. Turan, I'll make sure to include you.
Thank you.
So, Mohamed, it's great to see you here, and my apologies for being late. My question, in particular, kind of seeing you in the same screen with Bengisu and with Numan, is that your activities in terms of the student organizations. I remember that you worked very hard to get the Muslim student organization going with some other Muslim students. I kind of remember some of the kind of the early meetings. And my apologies if you talk about this before, but how do you think that your experience in student organizations and student leadership prepared you for your future leadership roles?
Hi, Dr. Turan. Good to see you. Honestly, actually, I'm glad that you asked this question, because it made me reflect back on the time when we were in a room and we were trying to decide who was going to be the next leader. And I didn't want to do it. I was afraid. I was scared. And Dr. Turan suggested that I should be the next leader. And I'm so glad that he did, because it pushed me out of my comfort zone. We had to meet periodically and come up with an agenda and plan our events. And we planned a few events where we had to arrange with guest speakers and being able to stand in front of a couple of huge crowd and being able to talk to them. And at that time, I really had none of those skills. My presentation skills were rookie. My confidence level was not up to bar. So even being out and having this entrepreneurial spirit to be standing in a table and welcome people to come and to ask you questions and being able to answer and take that leadership role, it really made an impact for me. Now that I reflect back, being able to stand in front of my team, to run a huddle with my team, or to have a strategy that I'm trying to kind of like execute on with leadership team, sitting down with a bunch of other branch managers and talking about, you know, goals and plans for our branches. So yes, that role was my first leadership role, and I'm very grateful for it. And if it wasn't for you to recommend me to take up on it, maybe I would have missed out.
You showed amazing leadership there, and I always was appreciative about your being inclusive and also very broad in terms of your outlook. I kind of felt that you made people, Muslim, non-Muslim, welcome to that space and establish such a sense of fraternity, solidarity, and just kind of mutual learning. And I think that the Muslim Student Association kind of continue that tradition after you, in part because it has been kind of established as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Turan.
If that was all the questions, it's nearing 7, but thank you so much to everybody who asked questions and everybody for coming and listening to Mohamed. And thank you for Mohamed for sharing your experiences and what you're doing right now.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Mohamed, and thank you, Bengesu. I wanted to thank everybody for being here. There's a couple of things I'll drop in the chat. One of them is our Tacoma Husky Landing networking page where you can network with students, other people in different industries. It's a career networking platform, but it allows you to kind of give a hand, a Husky helping hand back to students and give advice as they look for jobs and things like that. There's a lot of information and resources on there also for alumni and community. So I'll put that in the chat. And our next event will be on November the 9th. And we will have Ty Reed from the Milgar School of Business. He's an alum that's also a career and recovery coach. And so we will have him on that date on November the 9th, and it'll be 6 to 7 p.m. on Zoom. So we look forward to seeing everybody then. So just check the chat before you leave. I'm dropping the link in there for Tacoma Husky Landing now. And thank you again.